all time.
It's only the one, bro.
All right, I promise that we live, okay? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you very much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in on this edition. We're going to be talking about some of the top three or some of the best New Orleans Saints so far. Okay, it's been 5 games that the New Orleans Saints have played here in the 2020 season, and they have been some guys that have stood out. Okay, I mean, despite the offense sputtering a little bit, the defense, we all know about that. But there are some guys that kind of been stepping it up and doing a really good job. We're going to be talking about them, but I want to say thank you very much for spending your Friday night with yours truly. Thank you so much for that. Okay, I want to give a special shout out to everybody in the chat. And if this is your first time checking out the State of the Saints podcast, hopefully it will not be your last. All right. But 5 games, once again, have been played. And the New Orleans Saints have got some guys that have really been stepping it up. All right. They've really been stepping up. They've really been doing their thing. And I think, in the process, I think we need to acknowledge those guys because, we acknowledge guys when they're not doing a good job, right? We know the guys that are not stepping up. We know the guys that are not doing such a good job. And, we talk about those people ad nauseum. But it's time for us to start congratulating some of these guys that have really helped this team be the number 1 team in the NFC South right now. So I want to give a special shout out to everybody in the chat. Special shout out to Tyra, your boy Jay, Candace, Mr. Pops 3000, Chemo, Mike. Thank you all. Jared Poor, man, thank y'all so much for being a part of the State of the Saints podcast. And, I really do appreciate it. But the top 3, these are my top 3. And feel free, if you have a top 3 that you have, and maybe I didn't mention one of those players' names, feel free to put it in the comments. Feel free. I mean, this isn't just, my show. This is your show as well. So my top 3, I have to start it off. Number 3 is a person that, a lot of people don't look at. They don't give the credit to these particular guys all the time. But I really feel like this guy has really been stepping it up and has really done an outstanding job. And that's Will Lutz, man. Will Lutz. Like, I know we don't like to give credit to kickers because we're like, oh, you know what I'm saying? People like kickers are not a real position. You know what I'm saying? They really don't contribute a lot. But Will Lutz is one of the best, if not the best, field goal kickers in the NFL right now. And I think that us beating the Chargers had a lot to do with Will Lutz and his ability to kick the ball between the uprights. I'm a huge fan of Will Lutz. Will Lutz has done some outstanding things in a New Orleans Saints uniform, and I think it's about time for us to give this guy some credit. He was awarded the NFC Special Team Player of the Week, so congratulations to him with that. And I think that we're extremely lucky that we have Will Lutz on this team. I mean, Will Lutz has made some clutch kicks. We all know about his 58-yard field goal that he kicked against the Houston Texans. We know about the field goal that he kicked in overtime against the Chargers in order to give the Saints the go-ahead lead in order for them to seal the deal. So Will Lutz, to me, is my number 3 New Orleans Saints so far after 5 weeks. Coming in at number 2 is a guy that I have a lot of respect for. I'm ready to lay it all on the line for and jump out of the window because I'm extremely excited about him. And that's Trey Hendrickson, man. Now, at the beginning of the season, I was having a debate with someone that was on social media, and I was talking about Trey Hendrickson. And this person would not believe that Trey Hendrickson was that good. Okay. I said that it was going to be virtually impossible for the Saints to be able to keep Trey Hendrickson because he is going to be a starter on someone else's team. And this guy thought it was the funniest thing in the world because it was like, oh, man, Trey Hendrickson, he ain't going to do nothing. He ain't nobody, this, that, and the third. So I tried to explain to this guy how good Trey Hendrickson was and how lucky the New Orleans Saints were to grab this guy, from Florida Atlantic. If Trey Hendrickson didn't have any off-the-field issues at Florida Atlantic, he would have been a first-round or second-round pick coming out of Florida Atlantic. The fact that he fell into the lap of the New Orleans Saints, well, they're pretty lucky to have him. All right. And right now he leads the team in sacks with 4.5. And I don't see any sign of letting it up. I mean, most teams go into the game and trying to double team Cam Jordan. So in the process, Trey Hendrickson, all he has to do is win his one-on-one matchup, and he has been doing so. The same one-on-one matchup that I expected somebody like, I don't know, Jadeveon Clowney to have or win when he was in a Houston Texas uniform because he had J.J. Watt on the opposite side and he never got double-digit sacks, and all the people out there were upset because Jadeveon Clowney didn't end up going to the Saints. Well, my question is to you is, how many sacks do Jadeveon Clowney have and how many sacks Trey Hendrickson have, right? Trey Hendrickson has 4.5 and Jadeveon Clowney has goose egg, zip, zilch, nada. So Trey Hendrickson, to me, is a really good football player. He's a guy that I feel like is going to be one of those Jared Allen type guys. And some of you probably don't know who Jared Allen is, but y'all know he is the highlight of his career is when he played for the Minnesota Vikings. I look at Trey Hendrickson in that same regard. I can see Trey Hendrickson having 15 sacks. I can see Trey Hendrickson going to a team that has struggles in the pass rush and going out there being the face of the defense. All right. I'm just being honest with you. All right. Because like I said, I don't see the Saints keeping this guy. But Trey Hendrickson to me is my number 2 New Orleans Saint who has been doing an outstanding job so far. And number 1, coming in at number 1 is a surprise to absolutely nobody. Alvin Kamara. Excuse me. Alvin Kamara is the best right now. Okay. Not only is Alvin Kamara the best on the Saints team, I feel like Alvin Kamara is the best in the NFL right now. Okay. Look, I understand that the quarterback is the sexiest position. So you're always going to try to find a way to ease a quarterback in there somewhere. You're going to talk about Russell Wilson, who I like a lot, and he deserves all the credit in the world. I'm happy that he finally getting the attention that he deserves. But I think that we need to start looking at other positions, like what they used to do back in the late 80s and early 90s before everybody started going crazy and gaga goo-goo over a quarterback. Alvin Kamara means so much to New Orleans Saints because he does so much for the New Orleans Saints. Not only does he run between the tackles, yes, he does run between the tackles for all those people that felt like he can't. And not only can he catch the ball out of the backfield, but this guy is running wide receiver routes and catching the ball like his name is Michael Thomas. Alvin Kamara said in the offseason that he was 73% last season. A lot of people raised their eyebrows like The Rock at the fact that he said that. But now coming into the season, he's 100%, and I think that we all can give him the benefit of the doubt from last season. And I did not forget about the people in the offseason that were on the State of the Saints podcast that didn't believe what Alvin Kamara was saying. And I have yet to see some of those people file into the inbox and file into the comments and apologize to the man because, like I said, we were going to have church, and every Sunday we seem to have church, and nobody seems to show up. Now, I understand it's COVID-19 and we're practicing social distancing, and maybe you don't want to come to the congregation or come inside the church because you're afraid that you might catch something. But check this out. We are doing virtual church. So you don't have to worry about being close to absolutely No one. All right. You don't have to be afraid. All you have to do is step into the front of the virtual congregation and say how wrong you were. But of course, people are not going to do that. Okay. They feel like, oh, it happened a while back. Nobody's going to remember what I said. Look, we don't have to hold you accountable. And nobody has to be like some of these other people out here who try to corner celebrities and try to go back in the archives to try to find the most incriminating things about them 10 years ago. We ain't got to do that to you. You can do it for yourself, okay? You can have that spiritual cleansing. You can have that change of heart. You can step to the front of the congregation and say, yes, I admit that I said it and I was wrong. Okay, but Alvin Kamara is the number one New Orleans Saint, in my opinion. No doubt about that. All right, so those are my top three. Did I miss anybody? Who's your top three? I would love to hear from you. And I'm about to open the floor for everybody to let me know who you got. Let's see. I'm seeing names, so I'm gonna go back just a tad bit until I don't see any more. Well, I see it. Okay, let me see where we're gonna start. We're gonna start with Toddy here. What's going on, Toddy? Toddy says Kamara, Davis, Murray. Okay, that's not a bad list right here. Okay, Alvin Kamara, I mean, pretty obvious here. Demario Davis is one of those guys that is doing a good job as well. I mean, we know that he's a first-team All-Pro, and he's playing like it, no doubt about that. And Latavius Murray is a guy who I can appreciate because Latavius Murray is one of those guys that, to me, the Who Dat Nation, not everybody in the Who Dat Nation has accepted. And it's no fault of his at all. I want people to understand that. I mean, it's the fact that Sean Payton didn't use him. He didn't use him last season. And I think a lot of people were skeptical about Latavius Murray because I guess in the back of their mind, they're wondering, why doesn't Sean Payton use this guy? Why doesn't Sean Payton put him in the offense? Maybe he's not good enough. That wasn't the case. And I think it's pretty obvious that that wasn't the case the way he's balling out now. Kim says balling. Kai says AK-41, Trey Hendrickson, and Sanders. Honorable mention, Traquan Smith, believe it or not. Okay, there's nothing wrong with Traquan Smith. You know what I'm saying? As y'all notice on the front of the cover that I decided to use on this edition of the State of the Saints podcast, it is a picture of Traquan Smith. Look, I'm going to say that I was wrong about Traquan Smith, and I'm happy to say that I was wrong about Traquan Smith, and I'm happy that this guy decided to step it up and do things a little bit differently. I'm glad that he's starting to get a little more comfortable in the offense. I'm glad that he's in his primary position, the position that he played while he was in college that made him, work drafted by the New Orleans Saints. So I'm happy for him, man. And I think he's bigger. He's more physical. He's not afraid. And I think the last game, even though his number wasn't called, Sean Payton stepped to the podium and he talked about how he felt like they didn't call enough plays for him, and he felt bad about it. So that goes to tell you right there, it had absolutely nothing to do with Traquan Smith not being able to play or not being open, because I think we all can agree. I think we all know this, that Drew Brees is not going to force the ball to anybody. Drew Brees has primary targets for each particular play, okay? Rather it's number 12, Marquez Callaway. Rather it's number 11, Deontay Harris. Rather it's number 10, Traquan Smith. 17, Emmanuel Sanders. 13, Michael Thomas. 87, Jared Cook. 41, Alvin Kamara. I mean, if that primary receiver is being covered, he's going to check it down, all right? So I don't think Drew Brees, like some of them other quarterbacks out there, if a guy has a little bit of separation, he's like the second or third option, Drew Brees is going to throw him the football. Not all the time. Now, he might. Like, it has to be like this guy is just streaking down the field and ain't nothing in front of him except space and opportunity, which we all know that's not always the case because the way that the Saints offense is structured, guys are kind of just, close in the vicinity and stuff like that. You make your own speculation about why that is, but Traquan Smith didn't have enough plays, and he stepped it up this season, man, and I'm proud of him. No doubt about that, man. And I think that we need to give Traquan Smith some credit, man, because we were so happy to tell other members of the Who That Nation, excuse me, about his shortcomings, right? About all the things that he lacked, about the lack of heart, about the lack of targets, about not being open. So let's give that man some credit for actually being the player that we wanted him to be all these years. So he gets my respect, no doubt about that. Chanel says, what up, TJ? What's going on, Chanel? Justin, what up, man? We got Casey says, I wish we could get Greg Williams back. They suspended him indefinitely by the NFL and was quick to let him coach elsewhere. Well, it took a while for him to get back, Casey. Let's not pretend like it didn't. Greg Williams is a really good defensive coordinator. I feel like a lot of teams are afraid to make him a head coach because of all the things that happened. The fact that you allow someone that was involved in a scandal that could have possibly injured, paralyzed the player, made, you know what I'm saying, like seriously had a player out of the game of football, to have him as your face of your franchise, you know what I'm saying, as the head coach. I think a lot of teams are skeptical about that. You got the Cleveland Browns had opportunity to make him the head coach. They decided not to. If you look at the Jets right now, he's probably the best part of that team, his defense, because it definitely ain't Adam Gase with his old no coaching self. I just think that Greg Williams is a really good defensive coordinator, but I don't see him ever coming back to the New Orleans Saints. It would have to involve Sean Payton not being anywhere around the organization in order for him to come back, and not to mention, all the things that brought with it. I mean, it would just warrant too much scandal, too much investigating, too much news press. And we all know that the New Orleans Saints, I know for the last couple of weeks they've been in a media cycle and stuff like that because of Michael Thomas, but we all know how unconventional that is. So as much as I like Greg Williams as a defensive coordinator, I don't feel like it would ever happen him coaching in any capacity for the New Orleans Saints organization. Ren says Kamara and Sanders, and on defense, Trey Hendrickson is balling out. Yeah, I mean, everybody, you're the second person, Ren, that I see with Emmanuel Sanders. I'll say for the last couple weeks, it has been Emmanuel Sanders. You can tell the chemistry between he and Drew Brees is off the charts right now. Drew Brees is starting to trust him, and Emmanuel Sanders is giving him reason to. Emmanuel Sanders is catching everything that Drew Brees throws at him. And that's how you get the trust of your quarterback. The fact that he can trust you when he throws the ball to you, you're going to catch it, you're going to come down with it. Now, Emmanuel Sanders was put in some tight spots. I remember one pass in particular, Drew Brees threw over the middle. And it was between like three defenders. And Emmanuel Sanders ended up catching that ball. He could have easily made a business decision and say, man, I got a guy behind me, I got a guy on the side of me, and I got a guy in front of me. Now, these guys can tattoo me because I'm only like 170, 180 pounds soaking wet. But he went up and he got it, man. That shows the toughness of Emmanuel Sanders. That's that Pittsburgh Steelers, Denver Bronco type player right there. We all know about the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can't be no punk playing in their offense. Going up against the Ravens, going up against Vontaze Burfict and the Cincinnati Bengals back in the day. You know what I'm saying? You can do that against the Cleveland Browns because they're good now, but we all know the story of that. So Emmanuel Sanders is a tough football player, and I'm glad to see he and Drew Brees are on the same page. So I'm looking forward to seeing their chemistry develop and seeing what's going to happen once Michael Thomas comes back. Toddy says, happy Friday, TJ. Happy Friday to you too, man. Derek, what's going on? We got your boy Jay says, Alvin Kamara, Demario Davis, and Trey Henderson, top three right now. It's not a bad list. Trey, AK, and Sanders. That's not a bad list, Kim. A lot of people saying Trey Henderson. I think everybody pretty much in agreement with Alvin Kamara. 704 Bound Charlotte says, hope y'all enjoyed that bye week because my Panthers ready for y'all. Man, nobody really care about the Panthers, man. Like, I'm just being honest with you. They're a good football team. Not really shocking to me that they have the record that they have right now. I think that they're one of those teams that is very underrated. But let's just be serious about this, folks. The same offense that y'all running out there in Carolina, you know what I'm saying, they running in New Orleans, okay? So congratulations to you for taking the Saints offense and actually making yourself legitimate. But the imitation is never better than the original. Okay, it's not. Okay, what they say, the 21 laws of power. The student will never be greater than the teacher. You can't come to New Orleans and expect to run the same offense that New Orleans runs and think that it's going to work. It's not going to happen, man. The Saints are are masters at running the offense that y'all are trying to run. All right. So there's a reason why here on the State of the Saints podcast, I called the Carolina Panthers New Orleans Saints light. All right. You got New Orleans Saints quarterback. You got some of the New Orleans Saints personnel, the offensive coordinator, former New Orleans Saints personnel guy. All right. And not to mention you got little sprinkles of New Orleans Saints all over that team. So let's slow your roll right there. I understand Robbie Anderson is acting a fool, and DJ Moore is living up to his potential, and Curtis Samuel doing his thing. And I know there's a lot of excitement because they're doing it without Christian McCaffrey, and Mike Davis is doing a good job. But come on, man. We ready. No doubt about that. We ready. And not to mention, y'all still have a lot of young players on that team. So don't think that Drew Brees, just like he did with the Chargers, won't carve up that young secondary. So look, good luck. And I don't have anything against Carolina. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm glad that Teddy Bridgewater is getting success, but we're not scared of y'all, man. We're definitely not. Like, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at like the Tampa fans that then came through the spot. They come on here and they talk about how we run the South and how everybody in the South and the NFL scared of them, only for them to get beat down by the Chicago Bears. Come on, man. Like I said, the imitation will never be greater than the original. I'm glad O-line and Breeze are on the same page. Yeah, I mean, offensive line has been really good this season. I mean, you have to admit. I mean, there's last season around this time, man, I mean, it was like holding calls left and right. They're a little bit more disciplined this season, and not to mention on the running game. The running offensive blocking has been outstanding. So I'm glad that they're on the same page, and I'm just going to say it, man. I feel like Nick Easton at this time is better than Andrews Pete. And you can put your own little spin on it as to why that can happen. Maybe it's because Andrews Pete is still dealing with injury and Nick Easton is a little bit more healthy. But I don't know, man. That's a good offensive line the Saints have, no doubt about that. Sanders is a solid vet. We're going to need him down the stretch. Who that? Yeah, we definitely are. My top three Saints this season is Sanders, Kamara, and Hendrickson. Jerry, that's about the same as everybody else, man. I mean, I'm seeing Sanders, I'm seeing Davis. I mean, it's like, you know, I'm seeing two of the same people, Hendrickson and Kamara, and it might be a different person when it comes to a third. But, I mean, I think we're all in agreement. Trey Hendrickson and Alvin Kamara has been outstanding. But I'm going to show respect to Will Lutz, man. That's my guy. I'm confident the offense is going to only get better and we move forward. Like the rookie Callaway, he looked pretty good this past week. Yeah, man, Marquez Callaway did a really good job filling in for Deontay Harris, who y'all see behind me on the screen, guy that I got a lot of respect for as well. Marquez Callaway, it seems like the Saints really want him to be a part of the offense. I mean, he was running the ball back on special teams. And his number was called a couple of times. I think he had about 3 or 4 catches for about 34 yards. So it's not real big numbers or anything like that. But the fact that he was actually targeted in the game, and we all know if your name isn't Michael Thomas, Jared Cook, Alvin Kamara, you can easily get lost in this offense. I mean, how many times we seen Krishawn Hogan playing a game, don't get no targets? How many times we seen Lil Jordan Humphreys playing a game and don't get no targets? How many times we seen Austin Carr playing a game and don't get any targets? So the fact that he's actually being targeted at any time of the game really shows that they have high expectations for this guy. Ren says, we have one of the worst secondaries in the league. Our front seven holding it down, but the back end scares me. We don't have one. We have the worst. I will say that. We have the worst secondary in football. I don't mind saying that. I say it to anybody. I will go up against anybody to debate that. There is no team that I feel like that offenses can get the ball down the field with more easy than they can on the Saints secondary. And I'm just kind of sick of it, man. I'm tired of watching this. I'm tired of sitting up here talking about these type of things. But this secondary continuously becomes the Achilles heel of the New Orleans Saints and stopping them from reaching their full potential. Look, I feel like the New Orleans Saints at this stage, when you look at Drew Brees, you look at the offense sputtering, especially to start games, and they're becoming a second half team. I feel like the defense is really important. All right, I mean, you look at back in the day, 2015. I always like to bring this up: the Denver Broncos. I mean, it was one of those situations where you had an aging quarterback that didn't have the same abilities he once had that made him a household name and a future Hall of Famer. But then you had a defense that was straight up lights out. You had Von Miller. You had, you had DeMarcus Ware. You had Chris Harris Jr. You had Aqib Talib. And you had a defense that can make stops, okay? And if the offense isn't doing anything, they can go out there and win those 10-7 games. They can go out there and win those 6-3 games, But the Saints don't have that. The Saints don't have a team where if Drew Brees lacks or the offense slacks off, the defense will be able to pick up the slack and them to win an ugly game. Now, I will say this, and I think we need to give them credit for this. They did stop Justin Herbert in the second half. I think they only scored like 10 points, if I'm not mistaken, in the second half. So Justin Herbert did most of his damage in the first half. So they did make those adjustments. The Saints are a good second half team. I want the Saints defense to complete an entire game. And I don't feel like it should just be us jumping around and being so excited that they actually made a 3-and-out. Like that's not what a good defense does. It's not. A good defense does it consistently, and it becomes almost like the norm. All right. I feel like us being excited, oh, they got a 3-and-out. That just shows how pathetic and sad this defense is. So I don't think the Saints are going anywhere as long as this defense continues to play the way that they do. And I know people get mad at me because they feel like I'm too critical of the team and I just don't want to accept what's given in front of me, especially when it comes in the form of a win. But that's just me, folks. That's just the way I operate. I don't like mediocrity. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like mediocrity in my own personal life. Like, I don't come on here on the State of the Saints podcast saying I'm going to have a mediocre show today. I say I'm going to have a great show. I'm going to try to give my best. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to do something like that. I'm not trying to, swim in mediocrity. I can't accept that, man. I want this defense to be really, really good. And I'm comfortable with saying this. If the Saints defense don't straighten up, if it doesn't improve, I think we're just setting ourselves up for more heartbreak down the line. And they might weather the storm and go to the playoffs. They even might win a division again. But it's not going to get us anywhere. We're just going to be in the same spot, being mad, ready to curse out the world because the New Orleans Saints have let us down yet again because the defense couldn't make a stop in a crucial part of the game. So they got to get it together. I know we don't want to hear that. I know we don't want to address that, especially when it comes in the form of a win, because for some apparent reason, by some Saints fans, winning just erases everything that you see through 4 quarters of football. As long as the Saints have, I guess, like more points than the other team, but I'm just not wired that way. Maybe one day I will be, but I think if I ever come to that point, I think it's time for me to cancel the State of the Saints podcast because that means that my passion is no longer there. Allen and Glenn both are hot garbage. Dennis Allen is the worst defensive coordinator and needs to get fired. We got to play defense consistently every week. I mean, Ren, you hit the nail on the head. I say it all the time. You shouldn't congratulate your kid for putting the trash out if that's their chore, right? If the chore that you designated to them was to put the trash out, you shouldn't have to stand up and give them a standing ovation every time they decide to grab the Glad bag and head through the garage to go put it in the trash can and pull the trash out to the curb. Okay, no, it's expected of you, right? On Wednesday and Saturday, I guess those are still the same times that garbage men come through in New Orleans. But you expect that of them, right? It's their job. It's what they're supposed to do. I feel like us sitting up there clapping because the Saints got a 3-and-out on an opening drive, I think that's pretty sad. I think that's kind of pathetic, man. Not that we're pathetic. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea, but the fact that is what we're stooped to. You know what I'm saying? Like the expectation has gotten so low that we're just happy that they got a 3-and-out. Like it shouldn't be that way. Good defenses get 3-and-outs consistently, and their fan base don't have to worry about what type of defense they're going to bring on the field. You may not like the Chicago Bears, and we have to play them in a couple of weeks, but one thing is for certain. You know you're going to get a good defensive performance out of Chicago Bears. And if you don't get a good defensive performance out of Chicago Bears, you're wondering to yourself, what the hell is wrong with the Bears? The same way with the Ravens, the same way with the Steelers. You don't feel that way with the Saints, okay? I mean, if the Saints have a good defensive performance, it's amplified like 20 times because we don't expect it. I want us to get to a point where we expect greatness from our defense, and it is a part of the norm. And as long as we continue to have these same issues, I'm going to be screaming from the mountaintops and criticizing this defense because I'm not impressed. You know, when you start the trend and I'm starting to see defensive stops and I'm starting to see pressures and I'm seeing secondary players deflecting balls and also making tackles, then I get a little bit excited. But as of right now, I just feel like we're putting cologne on a musty body right now, okay? We're putting cologne on a musty body, and we're just setting ourselves up for failure. And I refuse to do so, okay? I refuse to suspend my imagination to benefit the secondary once they do something good or the defense as a whole. I'm not going to do it. The Saints' third down defense is absolutely horrible. Yep, not to mention their red zone defense. I mean, that is just absolutely pathetic. Were they like 15 or 20 or something like that? I mean, that is over 50%. Like, if you have over 50% in red zone defense, that is just absolutely sad right there. I mean, that is like over like almost 70% of the time. That's over 70% of the time that a defense is going to drive. I mean, offense, excuse me, are going to drive down the field and score on your team. That's pretty sad. That is sad. Nobody cares about the Panthers. I don't want to say I don't care about the Panthers. All I'm saying is maybe if I said that, then I maybe worded it wrong. I'm concerned about them because they are in the South, okay? If this was the Falcons right now, I probably say I ain't concerned about them. But, you know, the Panthers, they doing a good job, man. I'm not going to act as if they don't exist, but I still think the Saints are better. You are so right. I said, if you can't throw down the field and if the defense can't make stops, game over. Edwards, Latasha, let me say this. I think you have a very good point. I just think that the ability to throw the ball downfield, it keeps the defense guessing. And I just feel like if you just looking at this defense, you're like, yeah, they made a stop. Just feel like you playing yourself. And it's going to hurt even worse, you know? It's like one of those issues. Like if you have a problem with your man, a problem with your woman, and you don't say nothing, right? You know, you don't say nothing, you don't address it, it's going to bottle up. And eventually when they do something, it's really going to affect you because you probably should have said something about it in the first place, but you didn't. You allowed it to continue to linger on. That's the same way with this team, you know? Like they're winning right now, but if you don't address it down the line where a game matters most, it's going to hurt even worse. It's going to hurt. Is it just me? Well, we need new play calling. I think that Sean Payton has kind of lost his fastball, but I will say this, you know, another popular opinion, or another opinion that a lot of people don't like me saying, it has a lot to do with Drew Brees. It has a lot to do with Drew Brees and his limitations. I mean, I think that Sean Payton and the offense are handicapped right now. You know what I'm saying? I think because, you know, Drew Brees at this stage of his career, no fault of his own. I mean, he's a 41-year-old quarterback who has 20 years of NFL experience. I mean, it happens, right? We talk about this all the time here on the State of the Saints podcast about getting older. about not being able to do some of the things that you once did. But Sean Payton is trying to adjust and make up for what Drew Brees lacks these days. So I think that has a lot to do with it. I think if you were to have a younger quarterback with a stronger arm, I think you will see a different type of offense. It's almost like with Andy Reid, right? All those years with Donovan McNabb, you know what you were going to get, right? You know what you was going to get out there at Philly. You know you was going to get Brian Westbrook, a lot of things in the screen game. You know you was going to get some of those things. But then you get a young little kid named Patrick Mahomes, and now Andy Reid looks like a completely different head coach calling plays. So I think it has a lot to do with who you have, okay? I think if the Saints had Jameis Winston as their quarterback, it probably would be a little bit different. You probably would see more plays down the field because at the age of 27 years old, Jameis Winston still got that cannon. And we all know that he can scramble out of the pocket. We know that if a play breaks down, guys can break off their routes and try to get open, and Jameis can possibly get them the ball. So I think it has a lot to do with Drew Brees and, where he's at this stage of his career. I agree with the Drew Brees situation, okay? Chemo Slice, Ghostface giving you a who dat. Father Time is undefeated, pretty much, folks. I've been asking myself, how is Sean Payton still have a job as the Saints head coach? Well, I mean, he's had more victories over the past 3 seasons than any other head coach in the National Football League. I mean, let's not pretend like Sean Payton is slaw out here. Now, some of us may believe that he needs to relinquish his play calling duties, and some of us don't like how arrogant and cocky he is and how petty he is in some cases. But nevertheless, Sean Payton is still a great head coach. And if the New Orleans Saints decide to let him go, trust and believe if they let him go on Sunday, he'll have another job by Monday. So he is a really good football coach, man. I just think that we just get tired of him sometimes. And I think he knows his role. I think he knows where he stands within his organization. I think that he understands that he's not going anywhere. I mean, he's the winningest coach in New Orleans Saints history. He's done more for this city as a coach than any other coach that ever coached for this team. And he knows that. And I think he carries himself that way sometimes. And I think that's kind of his, that's kind of my biggest issue with him, because I feel like he think, I brought legitimacy to this team. I can do whatever I want. So shut up and watch me work. Like, nah, man, like you're not above criticism just because you brought a Super Bowl championship to New Orleans. I think if you do something stupid or something that deserves some type of criticism, I don't care what you brought to New Orleans. I'm going to say something about it. But I think that's how he carries himself. I think he looks at us like, well, what were y'all before me? And I think that kind of rubs people the wrong way sometimes, because I think that he has this, I mean, that's his mind frame. Like, y'all weren't nothing before I got here. I think he got that David Ruffin syndrome sometimes. Sean Payton has regressed. I don't know if he's regressed. I don't think he's regressed. I think Tyrod has a lot to do with, like I said, the limitations of the offense at this stage of Drew Brees' career. I think that this offense was completely different when Teddy Bridgewater was in the game. When Teddy was the quarterback, the first couple of weeks, it was kind of a Sean Payton, Drew Brees type offense. But if you notice, each and every week, they started to open it up. Each and every week, they start to sit down and listen to Teddy and see the type of things that he did differently. And the playbook got opened up, and Teddy Bridgewater became more and more polished and more confident. So I just think that it would be different if Drew Brees wasn't here. And I'm not saying that I'm ready for Drew Brees to go. I'm kicking Drew Brees out of the door. It's just what it is, folks. Drew Brees doesn't have like certain abilities anymore that when he was in his prime. And I think that's something that we need to accept. And I also think that's something that we need to understand. Like, I feel like sometimes people just hear criticism and all of a sudden they just think the worst. But, I mean, he's not the same quarterback. No disrespect, but the NFL is giving up a lot of points in the beginning of the season defensively. No one looks good early. Peanut, that's a good point. I will say that. Nobody's defense is looking good. I mentioned that before on the State of the Saints podcast, but here's the thing. Eric. Um, the Saints defense does this every year, and that's the problem, okay? Like, if we look at the Seattle Seahawks, who's giving up about 30-plus points a game, okay, we can look at it like, okay, we can chunk that up to COVID because the Seattle Seahawks for the past, 5 to 10 years have been a defensive team. You can look at a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. If they're giving up big points, if they're giving up big points, then we can look at it and chunk it up to COVID. But with the Saints, we're dealing with the same issues that we've been seeing before COVID-19, before the pandemic happened, before we were social distancing and stuff like that. So I'm not going to give this team the benefit of the doubt because they've been playing defense like this for a very long time. So I can't give them the pass that I can give a Seahawks. I can't give them the pass that I would give a Ravens. I can't give them a pass that I would give a Steelers because those teams deserve a pass because they got enough skins on the wall defensively for me to acknowledge the fact that maybe some of the lack of off-season activities are hindering their ability to play lights-out defense. I can't do it for the Saints. I can't because I've seen it so many times. Too many times have I seen Drew Brees drive the team down the field only for the secondary to give up a big play to put the team in field goal range to win a game or put the team in position to score. I've seen this too many times, okay? I like right off the bat, I can just think about several times that the Saints have done this. And Sean Payton isn't the same coach, in my opinion. I think it's more Dennis Allen than the players in the secondary. They have shown flashes of greatness last year. They have shown technique issues. They have to work on expeditiously, but a good defensive coordinator could help out a lot. Yeah, I believe that. That's a good point. I feel like he asks for too much. I was talking to my big brother EJ on the phone yesterday, and I was talking about how he needs to simplify the defense. I'm talking Dennis Allen. I think that all those different disguises and all those different schemes that they run, like these guys run 4-3, 3-4, Tampa 2, 46, 5-3. Them boys run quarters, nickels. Like you got all these different type of defensive packages, man. So it's almost like you're going to Harvard and majoring in defense or something. You know what I'm saying? Like I think what makes legends like the late great Jimmy Johnson out there in Philly, like the great Dick LeBeau when he was coaching the Pittsburgh Steelers all those years. I think it was the fact that how simplistic the defense was. I mean, we knew what their calling card was, right? Jimmy Johnson was the king of the blitz, and he ran a 4-3 defense. With Dick LeBeau ran a 3-4 defense, and he had those linebackers that could fly around the field. With the Saints, I just feel like they do way too much. Like a guy might thrive, you know what I'm saying, in cover two, but he struggles in man, right? So if the Saints are a man team, you know, like Janoris Jenkins, Marshawn Lattimore mostly play man, but Janoris Jenkins isn't here. And now you have a defense where you have to play man, and you have Patrick Robinson, who lacks in man-to-man coverage. Now you got him trying to play the same type of defense. That's not going to work. So I feel like they need to simplify their defense in order for them to become better. I just think that the defense is just way too complex, and guys are out of position, and they're not understanding their assignment because of all these different exotic plays. Like it's too damn exotic. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just too many different defensive schemes. Like pick one. If you're going to be a 4-3 team, be a 4-3 team. If you're going to be a 3-4 team, be a 3-4 team, right? You know what I'm saying? If you're going to be running a 46, then run a 46, right? But don't have a scheme for every single one, you know? Like don't do that. The New Orleans Saints average 30 points a game. I don't think Sean Payton is the problem. I mean, I agree, you know what I'm saying, with the fact that I don't feel like he's a problem. Like I said, I just feel like you have to accommodate for, Drew Brees and the type of offense that you can run in at this stage of his career. Payton should promote defensive line coach Ryan Nielsen to defensive coordinator and fire Allen and Glenn. The defensive line has improved each year since he's been there. He knows how to motivate his players. DLP 2600, Ryan Nielsen, I have a lot of respect for, but I have to see. I would have to know like his defensive philosophy, and sometimes guys can be good coaches, for one particular position. I'll give you a prime example. Okay, let's look at Curtis Johnson. Curtis Johnson, the first time around, was the Saints wide receiver coach, right? When Meacham and Henderson and Colston was here, right? And he did such a good job, it got him a head coaching job at Tulane. And, he wasn't a really good coach at Tulane, and they had to end up letting him go. And he ended up going back to the New Orleans Saints, and now look at it. You know what I'm saying? He's a good wide receiver coach. Sometimes guys are good coordinators. They're better coordinators than coaches. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to coach one particular position versus coaching an entire defense. Look at Mike Nolan. That's another example, right? Mike Nolan is the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. I mean, they out there getting sliced up like Swiss cheese, right? They getting cut up like, you know what I'm saying? They getting cut up like meat at the meat market. But if you looked at Mike Nolan as the linebackers coach of the Saints, the linebackers was probably the brightest spot on the Saints team, which I'm pretty sure he's going to get fired by Dallas so he can come on right back, man. We love Mike Nolan, man. Come on back to the Saints. But seriously, man, like sometimes, they give you that type of responsibility. You may not be that type of coach. So I would have to know what he would bring to the table for the entire defense before I make that decision. But I definitely think that the Saints need to get another defensive coordinator. I think we're going to continue to have the same issues. New Orleans Saints fans are spoiled. Anyone thinks Sean Payton should be fired, you got to be bananas. I agree with that one. I agree. I don't think he deserves to be fired at all. That's crazy. See you on the 8th. You're talking about Tom Brady, triple bar. I guess. The Saints defense will turn it around. I hope, Derek, but I just think that we just been saying that too many times, man. I'm sorry. If your man or your woman was like, I can change, I'm gonna change, and they keep on saying it over and over again, you're gonna be like my girl, like my girl said, she's like, I'm from Missouri. You gotta show me, you know what I'm saying? Like for real, like show me. Like let me know, you know what I'm saying? Let me know that you changed. All right. I'm tired of you talking about it. Be about it. Sean Payton only needs a reality check, not to be fired. I really don't know. Honestly, I really don't know what that reality check is. I really don't. I think sometimes that Sean Payton gets too comfortable with the players that he has. And sometimes he doesn't coach for the fact that those guys could possibly not be there. I think that when Michael Thomas, he looked at that like he coaches as if Michael Thomas is always going to be there. He coaches as if Alvin Kamara always going to be there. That is why I think anybody that criticizes Sean Payton as a coach, I think that you need to look at when Drew Brees went down and Teddy Bridgewater came in. To me, I feel like that was some of the best coaching Sean Payton did in a long time. Because I think sometimes like we get so used to him and Drew Brees, and the bar is just so high that we let a lot of things go. And if things don't look right, then we like, hold on, wait a minute now. But I feel like it's one thing to see it with Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Like Drew Brees is going to make Sean Payton look good. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going to win a game. They're going, you know what I'm saying? Something is going to happen because Drew Brees made it happen. versus a guy like Teddy Bridgewater with a lot of unanswered questions, even the fact about his health. For him to come in and win 5 straight games under Sean Payton. And I honestly feel like if Sean Payton would have had to roll with Teddy Bridgewater the entire season, let's just say, for example, Drew Brees went down and couldn't play for the remainder of the season, and Teddy Bridgewater would have been in and the Saints would have went 13-3, he would have been coach of the year. And he was going in that direction. So I think that was very important for us to see that Sean Payton can win games without Drew Brees. And not to mention, he's also showing you that he can win games without Michael Thomas as well, right? So we got to keep that in mind, folks. Like, I know sometimes like we get frustrated at watching Sean Payton and the way that he operates, but you also got to get this guy credit because 2 of the best New Orleans Saints players over the last 10 to 15 years have been down for an extended amount of time, and he still has found ways for the Saints to win more games than they lose. So you got to give credit where credit is due on that. Sean Payton, thank you very much for the $5. He's giving a shot at your boy Jay says, come give me that reality check in person, fool. This old man still got a little something in the tank for you. So he calling out your boy Jay, man. That's Sean Payton right there. Thank you very much for the $5, Sean. Jordan says, yeah, the secondary never look for the ball and get beat deep consistently. I mean, that's my point, Jordan. I mean, that is a fact. And that's something that as a Saints fan, I get tired of watching. You know, I think sometimes people forget, you know, I'm a Saints fan at the end of the day. So I just be just as frustrated as you are. You know, and I know people be wanting me to be professional about it, but this happens way too much for my liking. And it's starting to really get on my nerves. TJ missing all kind of comments today. I don't think I miss all type of comments, Josh. It's just the screen is rolling by really, really fast here. It's rolling by fast for me because you got people filing in and commenting. So, and not to mention that some of the things that I'm saying, I want to make sure that I'm keeping up with it. You know, I don't want to talk about 3 different other topics and, you know, and all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying, I'm back at the very first topic that I'm at. You know, like I've been forgot about what I said or some of the things that were addressed. So I try to keep it on topic, man. There's no disrespect to anybody or anything like that. But if the first thing we talking about was the top 3 players and then we transition to Sean Payton as a coach, you know, I want to try to keep it within, you know, within reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if it comes down and you still like, you know, comment about that particular thing and it's part of the new feeds, then I read it. But to try to keep it as on brand or on topic as I possibly can, Josh. Ghostface Griller says, TJ, I missed a lot of your show, but did you see Michael Thomas make a cameo on Cam Jordan's interview? Yeah, with Saz. He's ready to go. Yeah, I heard that, man. I seen it too. So it was a good thing, man. You know, like I said, I like Michael Thomas a lot. I think that Michael Thomas is, you know, top 5 best wide receiver in football. And, you know, I just thought that was pretty funny. You know, they were talking about him, Max and Cam about him, and all of a sudden he shows up. But, I mean, you know, whatever happened, it happened, man. They suspended him. It is what it is. You know, learn from it and keep it moving. Your boy Jay laughing. Trey Hendrickson, Ramczyk, and AK are the top 3 players so far. Yeah, I mean, Ramczyk, that's another person that deserves a lot of respect. And if you don't believe it, go look at that game we had that concussion and watch the way the running game left the game right along with him. That's power. You know what I'm saying? That's influence right there. 49ers game of 43 points to the Miami Dolphins. Come on, Peanut, man. Let's not pretend like the San Francisco. I know we don't like the 49ers, but let's not pretend like these guys aren't missing 2 of their best pass rushers in Solomon Thomas and Nick Bosa for the remainder of the season. And let's not act like Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't been dealing with a high ankle sprain and they've been going between C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins. Like, look, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't like the 49ers and, you know, but come on, man. They're dealing with a lot of things out there. I'm not going to even pretend like they not. All right, and not to mention, you know what I'm saying, the Miami Dolphins, we all know, I'm about to say Larry Fitzgerald. How about this? Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick, we all know he can get hot, okay? We know he can get hot. We seen this. I mean, this whole State of the Saints podcast was built on Ryan Fitzpatrick. Okay, Ryan Fitzpatrick, like anybody that criticizes Ryan Fitzpatrick or the Miami Dolphins, I mean, you ought to thank Ryan Fitzpatrick, because Ryan Fitzpatrick is the reason why the State of the Saints podcast exists. Because week one, when he was the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and he came into the Superdome and beat the Saints, that was the reason why this show existed. Because I was so upset that Ryan Fitzpatrick brought the Tampa Bay Buccaneers into the Superdome and beat them week one. So I know about Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitzmagic is not just a little catchy slogan. It's an actual thing. That guy can get hot, and he hard to stop. Matt Ryan will be a 49er next year. He might end up a Dallas Cowboy, one or the other. Cornerbacks and safeties stay flat-footed and never locate the ball. They all on Aaron Glenn coaching. Yeah, that's definitely his fault. I mean, it's becoming a trend here. Blew that nation. LOL, keep pounding. Look, y'all had 2 opportunities at the Super Bowl, and y'all haven't won either one of them. So let's not talk about blew that. If anybody blew that, how y'all go 15-1 and don't win a Super Bowl? Okay, let's come on, man, stop it. If we talking about blew that, all right, y'all had 2 opportunities, 2 cracks at it, 2 cracks at the Super Bowl, and y'all didn't win either one of them. So I wouldn't be around here throwing a term blew that around. Michael Thomas is number 1. He didn't get suspended, TJ. He was fine. Okay. All right. Derek, I mean, I don't, but why did he miss the game then? You know, then they say he missed the game because he hit CJ Gardner-Johnson. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that wasn't right. Alvin Kamara carrying the Saints, though. Yeah, he doing a really good job, man. But I don't want to just say it's him, man. They got a lot of people out there doing a really good job. You know, Alvin Kamara just standing out because he's doing some dynamic things. Rookie 12 showed up last week. He a stud. Yeah, Marquez Callaway did a really good job, no doubt about that. Got to run the ball more. Breeze has been reduced to a game manager. I guess you can say that. But, I mean, I can't really call him a game manager. I won't call Drew a game manager because game managers don't win games like that. Game managers lose games against the Chargers, okay? I mean, Drew Brees is more than a game manager. He's more than that. I won't say that about him. Is his arm strength diminished? Yes. Is he the same quarterback he was in his 20s? No. But I won't say that he's a game manager because game managers, they can't get into shootouts, and they definitely can't bring their team back from 17 to 20 points, all right? So you're more than that if you can do that. What about keeping Glenn since he gives the secondary confidence in bringing a better D coordinator that can groom him to teach better technique? Well, if you want to do something like that, Mr. Pops 3000, that's fine. But I do know some of the defensive coordinators, if you bring new guys in, he's going to want some of his guys. So if he's watching tape and he's watching the secondary that is, coordinated and coached by Aaron Glenn, not turn their head around over and over again, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to be like, well, maybe we need to go in a different direction with that as well. So if you want to look at it as a project, you're really sticking your neck out there because you only got so much time in order for you to turn around a defense, right? So you want to make sure that you put the best pieces in place, best coaching staff in place in order to make that transition happen, because as soon as you sign a dotted line, as soon as the ink dry, you're on the clock. So you don't have no time to be wasting trying to figure Aaron Glenn out and try to save his career, because you got at that particular time, you got to be trying to save your own career. So that's my personal opinion about that. Guys want to bring in their own guys that are proven, and guys that if they feel like I'm going to get fired, I'm gonna go down with my guy. So I don't know if that will happen or not. But I think that whoever comes in, hopefully they bring somebody in. I like Aaron Glenn for what he brings to that secondary. I think that secondary plays with a lot of confidence, but his coaching is horrible. Fitzmagic just like Lattimore, hot and cold. Here we go. Imagine if Dak went to the Saints, Drew Brees story 2.0. Yeah, man. I would think that Dak Prescott would be a really special quarterback. I have a lot of respect for Dak. And it's a doggone shame what the Dallas Cowboys did. It's rigged. You know that. I don't know that. I don't know if the Super Bowl rigged or not. I really don't. I don't know. Okay. I mean, I would hope that it's rigged the way that Cam Newton didn't even try to dive on the football. You know what I'm saying? Like he just stepped away from the football and allowed the Denver Broncos to get it. And I would hope that it's rigged the way that the Atlanta Falcons gave up that 25-point lead. I mean, I don't. I mean, it got to be rigged for those type of things to happen. You still going to do a show if COVID cancels the season? Yeah, of course. Josh, I mean, of course, man. Like even, I mean, y'all know I did shows like all off season. We made it very interesting. We had top tens and, we talked about some of the worst quarterbacks. So I'm always going to have content, man. I always got, I always got some content. I can make it interesting, but I hope that don't happen. Ray says if only defense can play as well as they do in the second half. Yeah. The halftime adjustments, I will say this. The halftime adjustments the defense make are really good. Like really, really good. But I just feel like the game plan they come into the game with sucks. What's happening, brother? I didn't know you were live. Yeah, I apologize about that, man. I mean, I was supposed to go live at 7:30. I'm going to be real with y'all, man. I fell asleep. Okay, I fell asleep. My son, he came and he laid on me, was laying on the couch, and I noticed he was tired. And, what he does is he wants you to lay down next to him until he falls asleep. So y'all know how it is, man. If you have like a young kid, they try to pay attention to everything. So you can't like lay up there and be on your phone or something like that until he falls asleep because that light on the cell phone going to distract him from trying to go to sleep. And then the next thing you know, you trying to, be up and you have things to do and you're trying to put him down. So I can't use my cell phone and now you're just laying there in silence and all of a sudden you just fall asleep. So I end up dozing off, man. So that's the reason why I had to change the time of the show. So originally I was supposed to go at 7:30, but I had to push it back, man, because I fell asleep. I'm just being real. The Bounty Gate. Let me see. The Bounty Gate, LOL, on y'all Super Bowl year. Okay, man. All right. Let me tell people how ridiculous this is. All right. You're saying the Bounty Gate was on the Super Bowl year. How is it? Think about this. All right. What's the role of a defensive player? Let's look at a defensive end. Their job is to try to get close to the quarterback, to sack him, to stop the run. You know what I'm saying? Like that's their job, right? So this is my question. How can a bounty affect a Super Bowl outcome? How can it do that, right? They still got to get to the quarterback to put him down on the ground. And it's not like that bounty plan like knock players out of the game to a point where it caused the Saints to win the Super Bowl. I mean, Peyton Manning played the whole game. And if you didn't remember, the Saints they didn't even sack Peyton Manning, not one time. They didn't sack him at all. Okay, I mean they didn't do anything to him. And the bounty pool didn't have anything to do with the outcome of the Minnesota Vikings game because that game went back and forth the entire time, all the way into overtime. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. How can a bounty affect the Super Bowl? How can it do that? Like, unless the bounty involved the referees, then you have a little bit of an argument. But them, you know what I'm saying, putting a little bit of extra cash in a player's pocket because he hits another player, like, it knocks him out of the game. I didn't see anybody get knocked out of the game. I seen Brett Favre, like, go out the game for a minute to come back in. But like I said, that game was like nip and tuck the entire time. But I get it, man. Look, Carolina never won a Super Bowl. You know, they get to the Super Bowl and they lose. Okay, I get it. So it's easy for y'all to try to criticize the Saints. But don't criticize the Saints because when they went to the Super Bowl, they actually won it. And y'all been twice and haven't won it not one time. But that's crazy, man. Like, if you want to come up with some type of theory, please don't use the bounty gate because that's absolutely ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Like, how can a bounty affect the outcome of a Super Bowl? Now, if you was like the bounty was like, you know what I'm saying, like we gave money to the referees to dictate the pace of the game or call the plays in our favor, then now we talking. But putting money in the pockets of a player because, you know, you want them to go out there and try to take out somebody, they still have to get to that person to take them out. So I get it, man. You know, jealousy don't look good on you, though, man. 704 don't look good on you, my friend. The Saints have a bye week. How do you feel about Teddy Bridgewater coming back with the Carolina? I like him. I think that he gonna play really well, but I just hope he lose. You know what I'm saying? I root for him every other game, but except for this one. 704, you're on the wrong page. Cam wore black and gold cleats to disrespect Saints and lost. I'm counting this season out if Corona season. Corona winning this game and the Super Bowl and the Pro Bowl. I'm not going to count this season out, man, because I feel like the NFL season is a little bit different from the college football season. Like college football collectively, I think it's hard for you to really play college football without all parties being involved, right? You know what I'm saying? Like the NFL, everybody's involved. Excuse me. College football, I really don't know. Like if a team goes to the national championship, I really don't know if that's the best team in football. I mean, you got Pac-12 starting at a certain time, Big Ten starting at a certain time, SEC starting at a certain time. So it's different. The only reason Bountygate happened is because Roger Goodell was pissed because he couldn't trademark Who Dat and lost a lot of potential revenue for the league and himself. That's a good theory, J-Rock. But we know that the Bountygate scandal, I mean, it turns out to be, it wasn't even actually that. And he had to end up apologizing. And he was supposed to end up apologizing for Jonathan Vilma because he couldn't prove that Jonathan Vilma had anything to do with it. And not to mention Paul Tagliabue had to come in and bail him out. We need a bounty on the refs for real. The way to call the BS penalties on us is ridiculous. They are legitimate holding a grudge on the Peyton. I agree with that. I do agree with that. The way that they officiate some of these Saints games, you know, it's ridiculous. Like I said, I think they officiate Saints games like a player that has a reputation of being a dirty player. Now, I'm not jealous. We play y'all next week. Yeah, I know, but saying that it's a bounty, come on, man. That's up there with the whole. That's up there with that whole. That's up there with that whole. The Saints, you know what I'm saying? Like they won a Super Bowl because of Katrina. Like that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Like the Saints went to the NFC Championship game in 2006. If they went to the Super Bowl that year, then you might have an argument. But 4 years later, I mean, they went to the NFC Championship game a year after Katrina. That didn't make sense. But folks, I'm about to go ahead and get up out of here, man. But I want to say thank you all so much for tuning in to the State of the Saints podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com. Search The State of the Saints podcast. Facebook.com. Search The State of the Saints podcast. And be sure to subscribe to the audio podcast on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Anchor FM. Thank you so much for your time. Hope everybody has a good Friday night. Look forward to speaking with you all this weekend. Yes, we still will have a live show. We won't be doing pre and post games, of course, because of the Saints bye week, but we still will be doing shows this weekend. So be on the lookout for the State of the Saints podcast. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?